Let me tell you about my best friend.
Hello and welcome to Manic Movies, a series where we talk about the madness of movies. I'm Ryanimaniac, and today we're going to be taking a look at the newly released Child's Play remake from 2019. Also, before we start, just want to go ahead and throw that out there, it's spoilers, so if you haven't seen the film, I recommend going and watching it before watching this review. So, surprisingly enough, this remake actually has very little to do with its original 1988 counterpart. The story in this involves a mother and son, Karen and Andy, who have moved to a new neighborhood, trying to start a new life, and Andy has difficulty fitting in. He's the weird kid. He's also got a hearing aid, and so he just doesn't know how to fit in. So his mom finds an abandoned Buddy doll, which is this universe's version of the good guy doll from the original. It's this super advanced doll that will, learn names and such. You can control all its different devices and all that sort of stuff. And she finds one that has been pretty much marked to be sent back to the company due to a strange defect in it, and decides, I'm going to give it to Andy so that it might help him make friends a little more. And so Andy gets it. He starts to, build a bit of a bond with the doll, but then its glitches start getting a lot more strange. Like, he becomes a lot more violent, and eventually he ends up killing someone. And so it's up to Andy to pretty much prove that the doll is crazy and psychotic and is malfunctioning, even though no one else believes him because it's a doll. So it's up to him and his new friend to prove that the doll is malfunctioning and causing panic and terror. So yeah, I was vastly surprised going into this film just how different it is compared to the 1988 version. So much to the point that you could almost say it's not even the same film. Dare I say, it should have just been kind of its own thing, and the whole Child's Play branding almost has nothing to do with it. I mean, it's so strange how vastly different it is. Honestly, you didn't really have to slap Child's Play and Chucky and the names of all the characters from the original Child's Play film. This really could have worked as its own thing. So I kind of feel like they made it a Child's Play remake just for the nostalgia's sake. But the thing is, even if it wasn't, like I said, even if it wasn't a Child's Play film, the film is actually quite good for a lot of different reasons. The main cast of people are quite good picks. Kid for Andy, vastly better than young Alex Vincent from the originals. Very robotic acting. And you can really tell that this kid is like the weird, odd kid who's having trouble fitting in and all. I do find it interesting, though, that this film focuses a lot more on Andy as opposed to the original, which kind of focused on the mom, Karen, a little bit more. But this one's an inverse of that and focuses more on Andy, which makes sense since the doll has imprinted itself onto Andy, so you want to focus more on him, and he's supposed to be the hero. I do get to notice a lot of the same beats for the mom, being this hard-working mother who's trying to start a new life of her own in this new area, and is dealing with the possibility that her son might be crazy. So very similar in a lot of ways to the original in that aspect, but we don't really get quite as much of her, and like I said, we don't get quite as much of her in this film as we did with Catherine Hicks in the original film. I do kind of like Detective Norris a lot more in this one, because like in the original, not to sound like a broken record, he was more of this, just stereotypical 80s cop, gotta do the paperwork, hardball, but also wants to do the right thing, that sort of thing. Where in this one, they make him a bit more of like an actual, more likable character. Like, he goes to dinner with his mom, he tries to be friends with Andy, and be friends with her mom and such, and so there's a lot more of a character to him, and there even is like a bit of backstory to him that isn't really even explained in the film. Like, at one point he says, I know you might have heard a lot about me, and surprisingly enough, we don't really find out what that means. So, given the fact that the ending of the film kind of sets up for a sequel. Perhaps we'll get to learn more about him. In fact, the strange thing I noticed is there's a lot of different plot points that it hints at, more of Andy's past, Detective Norris's past, all these different occurrences that go on, and we only get little snippets of it, like when Andy's flipping through his sketchbook and there's a picture of him with his mom and his dad, and suddenly closes it and just says, okay, we're just gonna ignore that. And it's never brought up in the film again, so it gives you just a little bit enough pieces to make your own assumptions, but also I feel like they're trying to set something up for maybe in the sequel. And now let's get on to the main attraction himself, Chucky, who, again, like I said, is so vastly different from the original. It's kind of shocking. In this one, it's not a serial killer who voodoos his way into a doll and slowly becomes more human. It is just an artificial AI robot who has his safety protocols removed. It's just a robot that's has advanced intelligence and constantly learning and adapting and taking in new information. And so he starts out in the beginning as an innocent, sweet doll, but slowly as the film progresses, he becomes more and more murderous in an attempt to protect his best friend, Andy. I will say the doll itself looks a little weird. It takes a little bit of getting used to. I mean, it's not awful, but I do prefer the look of the Brad Dourif version, and mostly just the face. Everything else looks alright, but the face itself is just a little strange, but I get where they're going, that it's a advanced robot, so it makes sense, but it's just the original version is just a lot nicer to look at, in my opinion. Also, I want to say the whole reasoning behind why he slowly becomes more and more sinister is kind of half and half for me. It's just that some dude, the Vietnamese dude in a Caslin factory, got fired, and his boss is like, finish that doll and you're out of here. So he's like, okay, I'm going to take off all the safety protocols. And so I was wondering where they were going to go with that. If it is artificial intelligence, why he would slowly turn more and more evil. But, I mean, that makes sense, but at the same time, I don't know. If they were trying to go for the route of artificial intelligence is kind of bad, then, I don't know, it just seems like a weird angle to take it from. But at the same time, it makes sense in the context of the story. Although it does raise a couple questions as to how he gets the violent nature. Like, for instance, early on in the film, he's playing a board game with Andy, and Andy's cat bites him and makes him bleed. And so, because the cat hurt Andy, Chucky decides to choke the cat. But I don't understand why up to that point. It hadn't really been experienced anything of a violent nature. Like, there's a later point in the film where Andy's made a couple more friends, and they're watching Texas Chainsaw together. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And so he's adapting from that and seeing how they're taking a lot of... They're finding it so entertaining, which could be sort of a bit of a jab at the horror movie fans, but take that as you will. Like, when it's that, it makes a lot more sense why he would slowly become more and more evil, but him just choking a cat seemed very, very out of left field. Because up to that point, he's mostly just been playing board games or, giving Andy gifts, which are just random items around the house because he's sort of glitched up and all, but it just seems odd to me that he just has this random moment there before he's even been exposed, to any violent natures. Mark Hamill's performance as Chucky is also very good. Again, not to sound like a broken record, I do still prefer Brad Dourif's version, but I give Mark Hamill credit for the fact that it sounds very different than what anyone was expecting. A lot of people were going expecting him to just do the Joker again, but it was a nice change of pace that it was its own unique character that had maybe a little bit of Joker sprinkled in, because it's Mark Hamill, but at the same time, it's still its very own character, while also kind of paying homage to the original voice of Brad Dourif. Ultimately, though, if I am going to compare the two, I do kind of prefer the original version of Chucky. Just not to sound like a broken record. It's just, I think what makes the original Chucky stand out compared to this one is that he's just a lot more fun to watch. Like, the one big flaw I feel for this version of Chucky is, yeah, you find him terrifying and scary, but at the same time you kind of feel sorry for him because he doesn't really know any better. Whereas original Chucky is quite clearly a serial killer and enjoys what he's doing, and so he's enjoyably evil, and he's just a villain you love to hate. And so, I don't know, I feel like that makes him just a bit of a stronger character overall, because he just has a personality to him, and he's a lot more fun to watch with snarky one-liners and that sort of thing. Whereas, I do like this Chucky. This is a very good Chucky if they're going to do an update and a reimagining that's different from the original. But at the same time, overall, I feel like the original Chucky's a stronger character, just because he has more of a personality to him, whereas this new Chucky is just kind of learning things as he goes. And, you know, you just want to tell him it's okay. I mean, you're doing horrible, awful things, but you know, you don't know any better. It's like a child in a way. But again, I will say this is a very good portrayal for what this story was demanding. But comparing the two, I want to say the original holds up a little stronger. But ultimately, like I said earlier, I feel like the film just shouldn't have been Child's Play, because there's so very little it has to do with Child's Play other than the name Child's Play and Chucky and Andy and Karen and Detective Norris. As you name these characters something completely different, then you wouldn't even have to slap Child's Play on it. It just feels like they just slapped Child's Play on it just so people will go, hey, look, I remember Child's Play, and then they'd go watch the film. But I don't know. I feel like even in the film itself, Chucky, he gives himself the name Chucky, and it's just sort of out of nowhere. Like, Andy's opening up, he's playing with, he's like, what's my name? And he just goes, Han Solo. Did you say Chucky? And it just feels like there's no real reason why he should be even called Chucky, other than just a complete glitch, and it just, and other than bearing a slight resemblance to the original, it just, I don't know, it feels so phony, fake. I feel like I wish they had done just something original, as opposed to just slapping the Child's Play moniker on it, especially when Don Mancini's given his absolute disapproval of the film. Like, there's just so little in common with the original Child's Play. I feel like had they just named it something completely different, it still would have done as well, but they did this mostly maybe to just stir up some drama or from some free advertising due to nostalgia. So, I don't know, it just, I felt like it would have been just so good as on its own as a film, but now it's just going to be constantly referred to as the remake, the Chucky remake. And I don't know, I feel like it would have just been a lot stronger and more well-received film had it just been something different and its own original thing. Like, you didn't even have to name the doll Chucky or make it look like Chucky. You could have done something completely new and unique with it, and it would have been fine. It would have been a good movie regardless. So, but now people are going to watch this and just compare it to the original, like I've done for this one. And it's just hard not to, because, you know, the original Chucky's been ingrained in our minds so long, and then you suddenly throw a remake, and it's so vastly different, you can't really do anything aside from compare it. Overall, it is still a good film. I just wish it had been its own thing, as opposed to a Chucky remake, as they've made it out to be. So anyways, thank you all so much for watching this video. If you liked it, you can feel free to hit that like button down below. You can feel free to subscribe to see what other random videos I got going up. You can check out the rest of the Manic Movies playlist. You can check out some of my other random gaming streams or videos I got on here. Or you can check out some of the dumb stuff I put up, like Lad of the Hill, which is Mini Lad approved, so not exactly the highest quality content, but, you know, it might get a chuckle out of you if you are willing to check it out. That's up to you. or you can leave a comment down below giving a suggestion of something I should look at, whether it be a movie, a game, or pretty much any sort of medium. I'm open to really any suggestions. But yeah, with all that being said, stay sane in the insane world, and I'll see you little loonies later.